We can talk about the regular stuff like referrals and warm leads and following up with old dormant clients or getting testimonials or improving your writing. But what we're doing here is really zeroing in on the important pieces to getting ongoing work and stability as a freelance writer. There's all this regular stuff we could talk about that's been hashed over many, many times, but we're going to get into a few things that you may not have thought about as a freelance writer when you're trying to get away from one-offs and you're moving more towards ongoing projects or retainer work. And I'm Mandy Ellis. I help other freelance writers build high-earning businesses that they adore without the overwhelm and burnout and stress so they can get dream clients and make more money in less time. And I've built my own six-figure business, so I know how to help them, and I know kind of the mistakes they've made in the past. So we're going to go from 7 to 1 here with all the tips that we have to make sure you have a more consistent income for the next year. So number 7 here, you need to look for potential clients who are already creating lots of different types of content consistently. So what ends up happening is there's a lot of writers who get in and they're like, we should tell them to start a blog, or we should tell them do this type of content because XYZ will happen. That's a really hard sell on a cold email or a cold pitch. So you trying to go in and tell them to do this type of content when they don't know you or they may not care is really difficult. But if you see the signs of them creating lots of different types of content, they're likely trying things. They're discovering different pieces of their audience and what they care about. They're looking for different types of wins they can get with different types of results, and they're trying to do it as consistently as possible. Now, if you see them faltering on the consistency part, that can likely be a good indicator they can get help from a freelance writer to do that work more consistently because they're feeling overloaded. But most of the time when we're going in there, we're looking for these kinds of indicators that we can have ongoing work from people who are already kind of doing something. But when you send that cold email, and I'll give you a video right here for cold emails so that you can do it properly, then what we want to do is make sure that you are not making assumptions. So what ends up happening is a lot of people send cold emails where they're like, you need a this, or you need these types of projects, or I do these types of projects. And whenever I've done that, I had potential clients be like, that's nice, but we're doing this, or okay, but we're doing that. And I'd be like, wait, I'm also doing those projects. So when I made assumptions about like what kinds of help they needed, instead of saying, do you need help with your content marketing? That kind of pigeonholed me. So when you reach out with your cold emails, make sure you're not pigeonholing yourself, but also don't make assumptions about staff. This is something that I see where people think, oh, the company already has people to do this, or that, maybe this isn't a good opportunity because I already see Cheryl's been posting a bunch. Don't make assumptions. You can really miss out on some good stuff. And we're really just hopping in with our cold email to ask if they need help. Do they need help? And then they can decide whether they need help or not. So that's our goal, is to really look for these potential clients who are already creating lots of different types of content as consistently as they can, not making assumptions about types of work or staff or whatever, really sending that cold email and just asking if they need help. Number six, you need to make sure that if you are someone who's focusing on magazines, you need to pitch them regularly. So they are looking not for a stable of writers. They are looking for a stable of good ideas, and those happen to come from XYZ writers. This is kind of the mistake, is there's lots of writers who want to be in the stable. They want to end up getting in that top magazine stable where they're getting regular work and they don't have to pitch as much. But you're missing that the reason you're in that stable in the first place is because you're bringing good ideas. That's kind of like the currency of magazines. So you can't just show up and be like, I'm in the stable now. Like, you have gotten that place because you are consistently pitching good ideas. So they're not looking for more writers. They're not looking for all of the just writers in general. They're looking for good ideas from XYZ people. So the good ideas are really the currency. And then the other piece is send those LOIs regularly. That's something that I harp on, but those LOIs, those letters of introduction that you send to businesses, those have to be sent. You have to feed the marketing beast, which I call the Tamagotchi. You have to feed the Tamagotchi to make sure that you have ongoing work. If you're not feeding the pipeline, it's really hard to have ongoing work from magazines and businesses. And I will also put in another video here. So those marketing strategies that I talked about where you're sending pitches and LOIs, I will put a video here to make sure that you have the information so that you can send those and actually get responses and results from those. Number 5, you need to kind of understand retainers versus hourly projects versus project prices. So hourly is where the faster and better you get, the less money you make. So that's why most experienced freelancers don't work hourly, because if you go in there and you say, I charge $500 an hour, that's a lot harder for someone to stomach than you saying $2,000. That flat fee, them knowing that that's how much it is, even if you say it only takes me 4 hours to do it, there's like that sticker shock to them. So there's like this thing that happens where you say, oh, well, it's $2,000. And that is easier because they're like, okay, that's the flat fee. There's no extra hours. It's just $2,000. So for me, working hourly is just, it is extremely rare that I do that, but we don't want to get penalized by making less money for the better and higher quality work and the more experience that we have. But the difference here is that you can work by the project or by retainer. And here's how I kind of hash it out. When I want ongoing work, it's 2 categories. I don't do it per client. I do it by project type. So if I have a project where it has a handful of deliverables, let's say 4 blog posts, 2 case studies, and a guide, that's a project price because it's a collection of items in the scope of work. And I usually do 50% up front, 50% 30 days later. If I have an ongoing project like 4 thought leadership articles per month for the next 3 months, that's a retainer because it's repetitive content every month. And for me, that makes more sense to do it by retainer because that's kind of how the content is delivered versus a project that's like a bunch of deliverables that could be, delivered over a 3 to 6 month period. So we want to make sure that when we do that retainer, we get 50% up front of the first month and then the other 50% of that first month at the end of the month. Every month after that in the retainer is you invoice at the first of the month and it's due mid-month. If they don't pay it, don't turn in your work. But for me, I like the idea of having that ongoing work paid up front because that really helps us with our finances, but it's also like a buy-in from the client. So when they give you that money up front, they're as serious as you are about the project. And hourly, like I said, there can be projects where it takes you longer, or you send a surprise invoice to the client, or you have a client who says don't work more than 10 hours, and it just gets very dicey because they're trying to buy time and they're not buying time. They're buying expertise and quality, and expertise and quality means project price or retainer price. So they're paying to have your brain as part of this project or part of this retainer. So I think when we get into the hourly idea, it gets a little dicey because it's buying the wrong thing. So we want to keep it on project where you get 50% up front, 50% 30 days later, or you have a retainer, which is like repetitive content every month for the next 3 to 6 months. You get 50% of that first month's retainer up front, 50% of that first month of the retainer at the end of the month. Every other month is you invoice on the first of the month, due mid-month. If they don't pay it, don't turn in your content. Number four, we have our cake and icing niches. So I think this, for me, is really helpful when it comes to clients. So we have cake and icing niches, which cake niches are ones that have hundreds of thousands of clients that are available. They're big, giant niches with lots of them. And icing is like either they're large niches that don't pay well, or there are a lot of small clients that just, it's like you could be working for magazines. That's often what I do, is icing is my magazine stuff. But when we look at our clients, this is also the balance. So we have our ongoing work, but we also want to balance like creativity or fun projects with other things that are fun, but also make more money. So for me, I think when you're paying attention to these industries and the clients, when you have both magazine and business clients, or when you have different types of niches you work in, it really helps you with ongoing work, because you know that, let's say 70% of your work comes from your cake niches, the big niches that always have tons of clients, like SaaS or food or travel or health, stuff like that. And then you have icing that could be all your magazine clients. It could be gardening. It could be equine. It could be vet. It could be a whole bunch of stuff. But we have this good balance between the two so that we have ongoing work and we have more stability in fun things we work on, regular work, and we know how to balance sending those LOIs or pitches to have money coming in while doing fun projects and cool things we like to do. Number three. So I think for me, this has been one of the biggest things, and I think a lot of people miss out on this. So in addition, the number one way I get work is LOIs. Bar none, number one way I get work is sending those LOIs. But the number two way I've gotten work over the years is my freelance friends. Those freelance friends deeply understand my business. They know exactly the type of clients that I'm going for. They understand why I like them and what types of projects I'm working on, and they can send very targeted lists or referrals to me. I think not enough freelance writers really develop those long-term bonds with other freelance writers, whether that's in a community or one-on-one, to deeply understand each other's businesses to refer work. This is something where like you can go to them and be like, hey, work is tight, or hey, I'm looking for this, can you keep an eye out? And they will send you stuff regularly. This is really important to getting ongoing work. It's not just a referral where they're like, hey, Stacy, meet so-and-so. It's someone who has their eye on the lookout for you too. So it's like having many different pairs of eyes that are also looking for the same things you are, and they can send them to you and you can do the same for them. For me, that has been huge in my business with the deep understanding that they have, and that it's kind of like what I talk about with my Wealth Lab or my runway students is like a new pair of glasses. If I have more people wearing a new pair of glasses looking for the little tidbits that I want in my business, the little client tidbits, it helps a ton, and you can reward that, right? We have like kind of like a I send them stuff, they send me things, and it's been one of the best ways that I've gotten clients over the years, by just having these relationships with other writers and friends who are both driven and motivated, but they understand what to look for. Number two, you have to filter. This ongoing work dries up really quickly if you're always taking on tire kickers or $100 or $500 or $300 projects. Those one-offs get really, really tiring because you're not filtering. You're only just being like, clients and money. Okay, clients and money. Oh, do you have money? Client? Okay, great. You're spending too much time onboarding, too much time learning this client just to get a few $100. So you have to be more particular about filtering calls, like who you get on a call with. And that comes from being more particular about your inbound leads. So whoever reaches out to you, you need to filter them. So I don't care if that means you send them a few questions via email, or you send them a few questions via DM on LinkedIn when they reach out to you, or you end up doing kind of what I did, which is have like a one-page website, like a little page on my website that's unsearchable to send to them, that has information about your projects and your values and your testimonials from clients, and then a bit of ballpark pricing, and then a place for them to schedule a call at the bottom. But you need to be more particular about filtering this. And I'm really talking to a lot of freelance writers who have been in the game for 2 to 5 years or more. You really need to filter. And this is what happens is I've talked to writers who are like, oh, I have a ton of inbound leads. And I'm like, fantastic. Tell me about them. And then it's like these little projects, $500 here, $300 here, maybe $1,000 here. It's not anything that you can put for ongoing work unless you want to be on the hamster wheel forever. And this is what happens. I'll have a student, or I'll have someone for coaching, and they've been a freelance writer for 10 or 15 years doing this. They keep weaving together little projects, and it's exhausting, and it leads to burnout and stress and feast and famine. That's not what we're doing here. In order to have ongoing work, you need to be aligning with clients who have a plan, who have long-term work. And that means you need to filter them out so that you're not getting on calls and you're not signing these one-offs anymore. The other way to do this too when you're filtering is like figure out what their budget is. Ask them about their budget. If their budget is not a match for you, they're not your client. You need to move on to find your next best client. So whether you're picking a project minimum where you're like, I'm not going to do a project unless it's at least $1,000 minimum or $2,000, or I'm not going to do it unless it's a retainer at X amount, or I'm not going to take less than this. We need to have some kind of boundaries here in addition to filtering to make sure we're signing the right clients. And we need to make sure that we're sending those LOIs and pitches so that we're filling the pipeline. We have those inbound leads coming in because I know you did your website and LinkedIn copy. So I know you did that. But we want to make sure we're filtering these things out, because this is something where I think the stress of writers is like signing the client. Like they get on a call and they're like, okay, the stress is like, got to make the sale. That's not what you want to do. You want to filter to see if that client is even a good fit for the long term. You don't want to get on there and just sign a client and just have someone on the hook. That's not what you want. We want to do this specific kind of process of asking the right questions so we have the right clients, so we have long-term ongoing work, and we build the relationships with the right clients who then can refer us, who can help us, build a better network or have long-term work. And if you're looking for those questions, you can grab them in my free cheat sheet. So if you go to mandyellis.com/cheat sheet, I will give you a bunch of the questions that you should ask to filter on your calls. And you can even send some of them via email, but you need to make sure you're asking these questions so you have that ongoing work, whether it's retainer work or project work, but you're connecting with those right clients. So if you go to mandyellis.com/cheat sheet, you can grab it. Now, the number one thing here is something I have watched people miss over and over and over again. You need to ask this on all your calls and all your emails with potential clients. What other work do you have coming up in the pipeline? You can ask that. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can say, how do we build this relationship on a call? So let's say you have an inbound lead that comes in via email or via LinkedIn DM, and they're like telling you about the project. You're like, cool, you can ask them questions, but you need to end up asking at the end, what other work do you have coming up in the pipeline? And you can specify, you can say the next quarter, right? You can say, what other work do you have coming up in the pipeline for Q1 and Q2, based on whatever time of year it is? Or you can be on a call, and at the end of the call, you can say, hey, can you, let me know, like, how do we build this relationship? What are some things on your mind that we can build this relationship together? And good clients will have very good answers to this. Bad clients will have no idea, and they're like, ew, what? No. So this is something I see missed all the time. You need to figure out what else is in that potential client's pipeline, because they will have ongoing work, right? Those good clients will have ongoing work because that goes with their content strategy, that goes with the plan they're executing. You want clients who pre-plan their content so that they have ongoing needs. You don't want people who have one-offs or who are like, we're trying this or we're trying that this quarter. Like, you want someone who actually has a strategy or a plan or a roadmap in place for their content that they're executing, and they're looking to build a long-term relationship with someone who is the right writer for their brand. That's what you want. So we want to know what else is coming up in the pipeline for at least the next 6 months, right? The next 2 quarters. Or if you're on a call and you feel more comfortable, you can ask them, how do we build this relationship? And I think that really helps kind of see where their head is at, where their planning is at, how they think about the content. And I think just when you're working with these long-term clients, or you can call them anchor clients, or ongoing clients, or stability clients, I think that you need to filter them from the very beginning. Like, you can't just... This is something that I think gets messed up, is when you don't know what's in the pipeline, it's really hard to like upsell later on. So people are like, oh, well, maybe I can upsell this. Well, you don't even know what's in their pipeline. You don't even know if they have budget or what else is going on. We need to know what's going on before we ever sign our first contract. We can't just like be like, oh, I have all these ideas and they'll just like give me money to do them. That won't work. We have to know where their head is at, what they're thinking, how their pipeline is working for content, what their budget is, how they're planning, all those good things at the very start, because that informs how our work goes, how long our relationship is, how much money we can make with that client, or how much we can help that client, versus just getting a client and thinking you can just like upsell them stuff to make more money. Like, there's a limit to that when they don't have a budget, or they're not thinking about a long-term relationship, or it's like a bunch of one-offs that just like don't connect. We still want to have good clips. We still want to have good clients. So we got to make sure we do that. You have to make sure you ask about work in the pipeline or how you're building that relationship, because without knowing what's going on for them, it's really hard to plan your schedule. It's really hard financially, and it leads to a lot of feast and famine. So if you're really trying to get that ongoing work, or you're really trying to build stability, these are the things I think are most important. And I hope that this has kind of helped you plan better. It helped you plan better for really getting ongoing work or building a more consistent income, instead of just taking whatever money and clients falls in your lap, or feeling like you have to just be at the mercy of whatever your clients want. You can have goals for your business and boundaries for your business and enforce that. Now, the more that you work on those inbound leads from your website and LinkedIn copy, and the more you work on sending those LOIs and pitches out, the pickier you get to be. That's what we want. We want to be picky about our clients. So if you can go through these 7 different things and really think about that in your business, I think it's going to help you make more money in less time. It's going to help you have more ongoing work, better relationships, more referrals. all the good things, more warm leads, all the things that we want in our business will come more naturally from doing these processes. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope this is something that is really getting you to that next level. Let me know below. Have you tried any of these things? Have you really asked these questions? Are you not filtering your clients as much? Are you kind of just getting clients and money? Are you doing a lot of one-offs? Kind of let me know below. And then also, is there anything else you're struggling with? Are you struggling with anything else when it comes to ongoing work or getting those long-term clients? Is there anything in there that you are really kind of confused about or struggling with when it comes to consistent income or identifying those high-paying clients? So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.